Leland, let's talk about the situation in Kiev. And you mentioned this about a week ago, talking about the frozen ground and the troops were still stalled. But now the concern is they're getting closer and closer to Kiev, overtaking that city, stalled but not deterred.
Yeah, certainly the Russians have been beginning to make a little bit of forward progress. The strategic map certainly hasn't changed over the weekend. However, there's a few points that you really have to take a look at. Frozen ground has been key because that allows Russian armor to have moved up here in the east and then also down here in the northeast. Why is that important? The largest, best equipped, best trained Ukrainian force is sitting here. They were set up to stop a frontal attack by the Russians here. The Russians have just been sitting here pounding away at the Ukrainians that are here. Now the Russians are going to cut them off here and here. Once they encircle this Ukrainian force, they will slaughter them. A terrible loss of life. More importantly, from a strategic standpoint, it'll prevent this Ukrainian force from moving back to the west and trying to reinforce or resupply anybody in Kiev or in Kharkiv. Now, to the capital where we were talking about the frozen ground. Russian armor has been able to move through these areas, a number of which were flooded by the Ukrainians to try and stop the Russian tanks from moving across the land, the fields, and force them onto the roads where we've seen some of those really devastating ambushes by the Ukrainians. The stalled convoys were up in this area and then in this area as well, and you can see they've now started to push down. We're told that this distance from here, the Ukrainian front line, into the center of Kiev is just about 9 miles. The other thing the Russians have been able to do is they have the high ground as they're coming in here. These are hills looking down in the Dnieper River, which runs through the center of Kiev. They have the high ground. They're able to shell down from that area. Now, we're going to show you what the result of that shelling has been in downtown Kiev. This is a rocket attack on downtown Kiev. The rocket that's coming in is a Grad rocket, so it is a dumb rocket, for lack of a better term. But once the Russians get close enough, as they fire them into Kiev, it is bound to hit something of significance. And that's why we're seeing the enormous damage around Kiev in these cities as the Russians are able to get closer and just pummel them in. This is the southern part of Ukraine. Again, the Russians are still fighting up here in Mariupol. We'll get to video of that in just a minute as they try to connect these two forces and then be able to go up in the east. This is where the Russians are advancing to try and cut off that big Ukrainian force that's sitting just about here. One thing that's changed over the weekend is the Russians have put ships all the way down here in a picket line around the Black Sea. That means that Odessa, the Ukrainians' last port, has been totally cut off, and the Russians still have boats and amphibious assault ships here ready to move on Odessa. Odessa can still be resupplied here. This is a line still back out to where Robert Sherman was, back to Poland, but it is a very long and treacherous run back there. The Russians still keep trying to push out here and then come over to Odessa. We don't know when this amphibious assault is going to happen, but the Russians are going to have to be able to move their units over this way. They've tried to outflank the Ukrainians here, has not worked so far. Mariupol is the last real fight right now that's ongoing on a daily basis. And as Robert said, it just continues to get worse and worse in that town. This is drone footage flying over the artillery barrages and rocket barrages that continue to rain down. Again, these are dumb munitions, meaning these are artillery shells or Grad rockets, unguided, that are devastating to civilian populations. They're not as effective against military installations and the like, but just devastate a city. And that's what the Russians want to do, is beat the Ukrainians in Mariupol into submission. They don't have power there. They don't have water. They're low on food. They're low on medical supplies. And that's what the Russians are starting to hit now, is more strategic spots out in the west. Robert and his team are just about up here in Poland. This is where the Ukrainians have their last lifeline. This is the NATO base and staging area, and then from there, the NATO supplies come in across the land here and move out to the west, move out to the east into the main battlefields. Hence why the Russians have been hitting very strategically. You talked about a strike up in Luhansk, down here, one of the main industrial towns, and then also here, which is near Lviv. The keys to this is almost all of these areas that were hit were airports. Why is that important? Is because it denies the Ukrainians the ability to take the aid that comes from the NATO flights in, the resupply flights, and then move them quickly to the west. Now they have to go over land. So as we take a look back now at the biggest map here, you get a sense of just how long the distances are that they're going to have to move all of these supplies over land. The farther and closer the Russians come in towards Kiev, the more difficult it is to get. The last real Ukrainian outpost is here in Kharkiv that is now almost surrounded by the Russians. They're trying to outflank them here and move to the south, but this is going to get surrounded soon. We have some video from Kharkiv as well. Again, dumb munitions by the Russians that they are running out of, but that are just causing unbelievable destruction inside these Ukrainian cities. Even, Marnie, if this war ended tomorrow, it would be years, if not decades, before being able to rebuild any significant part of Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, what a great way to look at the battlefield, and the lines are drawn. But as I'm looking at that drone video, Leland, it is overwhelmingly apparent that, yeah, you're right. We have decades before, I mean, these massive apartment buildings where all of these people called home will have to rebuild. The focus right now, of course, is on trying to get people to safety, on a ceasefire, on stopping this this barrage of airstrikes across Ukraine. But look at this drone video. These two big apartments buildings, the whole side of both of them are just basically torn open. Everything's going to have to be torn down. And this is thousands and thousands of people that when they go home, they have no home to go back to.
Right. And for the Russians to keep this up, we'll get to this in a minute, is they're going to have to get ammunition resupplied from China because they're running out. This was not part of their original battle plan. And they can go through city by city and do this to each city. But at some point, and it's why we're starting to see a little bit of movement in these ceasefire talks at some level, is obviously the Ukrainians are losing their country and the Russians are still losing the war effectively. You think about, we're 19 days in. They thought they would be in a much better place on day 2 than they are on day 19.
Right, and their focus, their tactic is to basically bomb them into submission. Right. And every single time they do that,
bomb them, starve them, everything.
And the Ukrainians keep digging in. Their resilience is incredible. I want to bring in Lieutenant General Richard Newton, retired Lieutenant General. He's been just a wealth of knowledge since this conflict and war broke out. It's always good to see you. Let's kind of start right there. Ukraine wants and needs weapons to keep up this fight. The question is, how long can they keep doing it? What specifically would help them right now in your mind?
Well, good evening, Marnie and Leland. Leland, that was an exceptional laydown. You sound as if you're an alumnus of mine from the National War College in Washington, D.C. I believe, Marnie, we're at a pivot point from a strategic standpoint, but from an operational standpoint. And the Ukrainians are in need of an abundant supply of military aid. The fact that the Russians are perhaps getting on the move, as Leland pointed out, 9 miles just north of Kiev and so forth. But that pivot point, in my view, tells me that everything should be on the table. I'm not, I would not support a no-fly zone at this point, but we ought to be putting capabilities in the NATO area for that. I'm thinking of those MiG-29s to lend to the Ukrainians so they can maintain now a modicum of air superiority, other military instruments of power. So that's really what I'm thinking right now.
If China, and that's a big if, supplies Russia with military and financial aid, what concerns you most about that alliance?
Well, that concerns me greatly. Our National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, met with his Chinese counterpart today in Rome for 7 hours. That was a meeting that had already been set up before the invasion, but nonetheless, I'm sure that he was very clear that, again, from President Biden lips himself, that wanting to keep China out of this. But if you have a nexus or a relationship with China and Russia that is in a resupply format, I think that does not bode well for Ukraine. It also puts another challenge towards the NATO alliance as well. If you've got Russia and China stacked up against the alliance, that is a whole nother conundrum that we face.
What more do you think that President Biden and the United States and also our NATO allies needs to say to China other than don't side with Russia? Right?
Well,
that
first
words
off,
are words enough,
yeah.
I guess is the question.
Well, words and action have to match. And the words would be, we have a very much unified NATO, but also we have other democratic, friends and allies with us, Japan, Australia, and others. This has really become a those who love freedom and other democracies have really united, not just within NATO and Europe and so forth. Secondly, again, we have other sanctions in our playbook that we not only we can put against Russia, but also there are what we call secondary sanctions that would go against those nations that are helping to at least supply and or resupply or at least acquiesce to Russians' demands on the invasion. So I think those are in the playbook. And I think of China, but also I think of India and so forth. So there's still some tools in our toolkit, but we've got to make it absolutely clear that China needs to stay out of this. By the way, China and India voted to abstain twice in the UN when it came down to discussion regarding the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So on all fronts, diplomatic, economic, finance, and so forth, we've got to make it very clear.
Well, and I'd love to be optimistic, but it feels pie in the sky right now. These latest talks between Russia and Ukraine, talking about a ceasefire, withdrawal of troops completely. Are you optimistic that that is still on the table at this point in the fight?
I'm not optimistic in any stretch because, but I am slightly encouraged, if you will, because of the fact that I know they had talks today in Turkey. They're going to go to another round of talks tomorrow. Just the fact that there are diplomatic discussions going on, I think, is a good thing. But the talk should not be used to show any type of acquiescence from Ukraine. It ought to be used in terms of showing the resolve of Ukraine, certainly the resolve of President Zelensky and so forth. And especially as Leland alluded to earlier, the Russians are going to be running out of ammunition. So there is some, again, the Russians have a play here in these talks as well, but that's still to be determined and still way off.
The Ukrainians resolute. You got that right. Lieutenant General Richard Newton, always good to see you. Thank you again for your time. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.